Hi everyone, it's Ash from FPL Hints, welcoming you to the FPL 24-25 season. As always, if you're able to like, share and subscribe, that will be greatly appreciated. And for those that did tune into my pre-season content, thank you so much. There was that gap to fill between late May, June and early July. For those that did watch those videos, you'll see that I had a few pre-season drafts when the game would go live, and also a bit of Euro fantasy as well. So in this video, I'm going to share with you my official FPL first draft for the 24-25 season. Of course, I have the reference point with my final pre-launch draft that I'm going to populate as a starting point. We'll also touch upon the rules, and I'm also, upon popular demand, going to create a draft that has Mohamed Salah and Haaland in it. So that's the way we're going to go, and I'm going to have that as my main draft. So as mentioned, there have been some rule changes in FPL that really need to be called out. The biggest one, I'd say it's very revolutionary and something that's going to benefit the planners among us. We can now roll up to 5 free transfers. Of course, in seasons gone by, or effectively for the past 22 years, it was just a maximum of 2. And the good thing here is that also when you play your bench boost and triple captainships, you've now got the option of having it so that you're banking essentially 3 free transfers in that event as well. So big change. And for those that did follow my content last season and my disappointing season, I took a -20 hit. So I'm hoping that gone are the days that I'm going to ever do a -20 hit. And of course, I really like saying back in the day that 2 free transfers and a -4 was a mini wildcard. It's safe to say that 5 free transfers without a hit is now the new mini wildcard. So there we have it. And this is no doubt going to make a big change in the way we play the game, and perhaps it will result in more patience for some FPL managers. So I'd say this is a welcome rule change. Another change that will be introduced, it hasn't come as of yet, it's a mystery chip that will come into play from Jan, and that we have no idea what that chip is as of now. We've still got the bench boost chip, we've got free hit chip, and also we have the triple captain chip. But this extra chip is something that's just thrown in as a variable. Now onto the additional rule changes. Of course, there was a lot of speculation about potential ball recovery points and effectively mirroring some of the fantasy elements that we've seen in UEFA Fantasy through UCL Fantasy and the Euro Fantasy game. Unfortunately, from the rules that have been confirmed for the 24-25 season, that won't be the case, which is disappointing, but basically means we've now got a continuation of the defensive midfielders effectively being redundant again. But the changes that they have introduced are very significant, and it will have a massive impact on the players that you're going to pick. So first of all, saving a penalty reduced from 15 to 9. Of course, we know that in matches where there's a 1-0 or a 0-0 and the penalty is saved, almost always that is those 3 points will be going to the goalkeepers. And in this instance, it's been cut, so there's no guarantee for that anymore. And in terms of how else points are being rewarded, we can see here that goalkeepers and defenders conceding a goal, that's now a -4. Goal line clearance, bit of bonus on that. 3 BPS. Foul 1 is worth 1 BPS. And crucially, shot on target is now worth 2 BPS. And my initial reading for this is that clearly having more than one premium defender could be quite problematic, especially if if those 2 premium defenders are out of form. I kind of feel that the reading of this, as we can see right now, is of benefit to those teams that have budget defenders who do well at a points per million level, and also those strikers who might score a goal in a match, but then they might have a lot of shots off target. The shots on target boost is now going to counteract that. So we might see strikers who ordinarily might have just got a goal and no bonus points now getting a goal and 2 or 3 bonus points. So most welcome there. And no doubt this will influence the way in which we structure our teams. So now on to the first draft. And as I promised, I'm going to first create the draft that I had as my final draft before launch. So as a reminder, I had Leno and Turner in goal. So let's go straight to Fulham and just check the price as well. So Leno, we can see there's 5 million. I believe in FPL.team, the planning tool that I was using, he was 4.5 there, if I'm not mistaken. And then my 4.0 dud goalkeeper in this case was Matt Turner. Again, with Nottingham Forest, highly doubt that he'll actually start. So just a dud sub there. And on to my defenders now. I had an Everton defender, I had Tarkowski. I also had an Arsenal defender, Saliba, who I'd argue at 6.0 million was my only premium defender. I also had in my final draft Fabian Schär, and in FPL.team, for some reason, is listed at 4.5. I suspected he'd be 5 million. Fabian Schär, actually, for the 24-25 season, because I looked at the price reveals, he's 5.5 million. And then on top of that, I had I had Anderson as well, beg your pardon, for Crystal Palace. So got rotating 4.5. And then I had a dud sub Ipswich defender, who I believe was Clark at 4.0 million. But then we've got quite a few playing defenders at 4.0 million as well. And then onto the midfield, of course, Arsenal player, not Saka because of the Euro commitments. I decided to go for Odegaard, so there he is. And in my final draft, I actually had Palmer, who was projected to be 9.5 million, but actually he's 10.5 million. So I kind of priced out there. So the pricing won't fit here. I did have Nkunku, actually. I did have him in my team because the reveal had already happened by then. So in he comes as well. And then I had Jack Grealish as a Maverick option in my team because not at the Euros. And I feel that he'll really want to hit the ground running, especially with his omission from the Euro squad. Ultimately didn't miss out because England sadly lost in the final. And then the other pick I had, a bit of a Maverick pick again for Spurs. And this was on the assumption we might have ball recoveries. So I had Sarr as a 5.0 midfielder. But again, no ball recovery points for this season, sadly. So that really doesn't make any sense. So got him there as a dud sub for now. So on to my strikers. Havertz 8.0 million, correctly predicted by FPL.team. And the other striker that I had was Isak from Newcastle United. Again, Isak didn't play at the Euros, but Havertz did, but exited at the quarterfinal round. And then lastly, 15 million, a million more than what many FPL accounts expected. Haaland, in he comes. He wasn't even like the top point scorer last season, but they've put him up at 15 million. And looking at the budget right now, I'm over 2.5 million. I feel that like the Palmer price in particular and the Haaland price, it's good that they've increased them and got more double-digit price players, which I'm going to just show on screen actually. All players sorted by price. So we can see there 4 midfielders at 10 million or more. Alexander-Arnold is the most expensive defender at 7.0 million. And then just one forward at 15 million. And again, many would be concerned that, oh, prices have gone up, it's quite expensive. And look, you got De Bruyne and Foden at 9.5 million. So there might be some FPL managers who actually might go for a no Haaland draft and then perhaps do a triple up with, let's say, Guardiola, De Bruyne and Haaland, De Bruyne and Foden in their FPL teams. So again, that's food for thought as well. And I will be doing a no Haaland draft later on during this pre-season. But I'm going to edit this draft so that I've got Mohamed Salah in, and we'll see what we can do. So first official FPL draft, and we'll have Mohamed Salah and Haaland in one team. Can we do it? Can we make it balanced? Let's find out. So I'm going to get rid of this double up here, got Palmer and Nkunku. I have to get rid of Palmer, purely because I'd hope that Nkunku can cover not having Palmer, and then the gap to fill is minus 4.5 million. I also want to remind ourselves, actually, of the FPL.team planner, shout out to that, which I'm going to show on screen there, and looking at the fixtures as well. So we can see that Arsenal have a reasonable run, so you definitely want an Arsenal defender in there. Aston Villa, I'd say that's a very generous run as well, so I'd try and get an Aston Villa player in there if possible. Bournemouth, I'd say nothing of amazement. Can't really justify getting like Solanke in at the moment. Brentford, mixed start. Brighton got some interesting fixtures, albeit mixed, but Pedro's price looked reasonable. I'd say Chelsea minus the game week 1 match. I'd say that's a very generous draft, so you'd want Chelsea cover in there. And then Crystal Palace, so that's reasonable enough. Get some Crystal Palace cover as well. Everton, potential option for some defensive rotation if you want to do rotating pairs, worth considering. And then Fulham, again, not massively like unreasonable, but you've got Ipswich, you've got that tricky opening fixture, and you've got Man City away. So perhaps you don't want to triple up on Ipswich at the moment. Leicester, not really like infused about their games either. Liverpool, very generous run of games. So clearly I need to up my Liverpool cover there. Man City, fixture proof regardless. So want to have a healthy amount of Man City cover. Say Man United also have some reasonable fixtures as well, as do Newcastle United, and also Nottingham Forest for those that might be looking at Morgan Gibbs-White as an option for them. Against Southampton, newly promoted teams, tricky opening game. Then they've got some reasonable matches. Say Spurs have some reasonable matches as well. West Ham seems slightly tricky, and then Wolves also seems a bit tricky as well. So with all that said, let's start constructing my first official FPL draft. So just getting it back here. Just flip my screen. There we go. So I've got to fill in a 4.5 million gap. I'm going to get rid of Leno. I'm going to actually, I might even go further down here. So I've got Saliba, but I might save 5.5 million and get David Raya in. And then looking at the 4.5 million options, so I've already got Tarkowski, 5 million. I'm going to get rid of him. Fabian Schär, going to get rid of him as well. Anderson, I might keep for now. So because of the way the pricing was and the rule changes, I might actually try and see if I can basically get 4.5 million pound defenders. So let's give that a shot. So 4.5 million pounds. And I mean, let's just do it by ownership. Be a lot of auto selects here. So with Newcastle United and Dan Burn, I do want to give him consideration as an alternative to Fabian Schär. Again, he's £1 million difference, so got to factor that in. And then with Aston Villa, we just going back to the screen with the fixtures, I'd say reasonable games and perhaps could potentially justify getting Konsa in, but then I probably won't start Konsa until what, game week 4, 5, and 6. So could have him as a sub 2 perhaps. But yeah, let's get Ezri Konsa in just for now. And then looking at the other option, Gehi, who I saw also has 4.5 million. So it's interesting. You've got a flurry of 4.5 million pound defenders who are championship level, and then on top of that, you've got a flurry of 4.5 million pound defenders who are like senior national team or Champions League level. So that's worth factoring in as well. I just want to go to Konsa actually. Just curious to see how many minutes he got last season. So again, over 3,000 minutes. I'd say he's probably underpriced by 500,000. So, but then you look at the number of clean sheets that were kept by Aston Villa. perhaps that might explain it, but I think he's underpriced. Just let's see who else we've got here. So I'm minus 2 million. I need to fill. And then you've got Martinez, who just won the Copa America with Argentina. Might even consider him, actually. Go back here. Conte comes out, and Martinez I could potentially start as early as game week 1. So in he comes. I've got Gahey and Anderson now, so I need to just get rid of one of them. I'll get rid of, again, Anderson's got that goal scoring prowess. And then you've got Gahey, who I wouldn't say on the goal scoring front, just see how many goals he had. 0 goals, 1 assist. You've got Anderson, 2 goals, 3 assists. Surprised they're the exact same price. But of course, the defensive attributes of Gahey might get him some additional bonus points. So let's get rid of him. I want to go back to that planner again because I've seen Ryan Ait-Nouri. Yeah, I can't justify him right now. I'd want to get him because of his out of position potential. So not going to have double Crystal Palace. And got Van de Ven. Opening games, Leicester and Everton. Scored 3 goals as well. Just don't trust Spurs for clean sheets at the moment. And of course, you've got Brighton. Not sure how they're going to do in those opening games. It's curious to see Chelsea. If there is a Chelsea defender that's 4.5 million, I probably will buy them, to be honest with you. Completely disregarded them. You've got, oh, look at that. Colwill, 4.5 million. Chalobah as well. Let's sort this by minutes for a moment. Yeah, Disasi as well. So let's just see how many goals he scored. I don't even remember. He's got 2 goals last season. Yeah, let's get Disasi in because it's starting from game week 2 effectively. Martinez, Burn, Disasi. So I'd start Burn, Martinez, and Anderson in that opening game. That looks good. In terms of 4.0 defenders, again, I had Clark as a dud defender. And I know there are other defenders who are likely starters in the 4.0 category. Let's see if Harwood Bellis is the top one. Yes, he is. Was a regular. You got Wout Weiss as well. Again, no idea if he played. Of course, he played regularly in the last Premier League season for Leicester within the Premier League. Got Vestergaard at 4.0 million as well. That's interesting. Just because I know that Harwood Bellis was a regular last season, I'll pick him as my dud sub, as it were. So I've got a 2 million gap to fill. I'm now going to pick a 4.5 million midfielder as well. So let's have a look. Got Yarmouk. Might be trickier to identify. Got Harry Winks as well, who is now a Leicester player. I think he could be a really good shout. 4.5 million, no nonsense pick. I'd expect him to be a regular in the Premier League, having played 45 championship matches last season. So in he comes. Jack Grealish, again, he was a Maverick pick, like I said. And I've got, a gap of 1.5 to fill. So let's get rid of Jack Grealish. That strike force of Isak, Haaland and Havertz, I am not going to touch. I feel that is good as it is. So £5 million. Am I willing to just tinker with any other part of my team here? So I think that defense is reasonable enough. I haven't got a premium defender, of course, because I'm trying to make it heavy up top. £5 million midfielder. Can I justify any of these picks? I can't. Let's push it to 5.5. Who comes up? Hudson-Odoi, perhaps. I think Hudson-Odoi is an interesting one because I think last season got a few. Yeah, got 8 goals and 2 assists. And he's 5.5 million. Yeah, I've got to shoehorn him in with the start that Forest have. That seems like a bit of a cheat code. I think Hudson-Odoi could have been 6 million easily there. So I've got 500,000 to save somewhere. I've got Havertz. I want the Arsenal triple up, not going to lie to you. And Kunku for Chelsea. Got Disasi as well. Again, Raya is my Arsenal defensive option, so I can't really get rid of him. So that would be a shame if I can't get Hudson-Odoi in. And just sorted by points as well. I'm pretty certain he'd be top for points as well. No, he's not. Where is he? Hudson-Odoi. Not even listed there. Thomas Souček at his price. 7 goals, 2 assists. Didn't even have an idea that he'd scored that many. Of course, he scored 10 goals and 2 assists from that season from a few years back. So, don't really want Souček in my team. Jordan Ayew, 5.5 million. 4 goals, 7 assists. Oh, McTominay, £5 million. 7 goals, 1 assist. Maybe he is the pick to have. Let's just sort it by goals and see who comes up in that 5 million. Look at McTominay. Guess McTominay is going to be my first pick. Can't believe got double United there. And Martinez for good measure as well. But I need to make it work. I wanted Anthony Gordon as well. Let's just see Anthony Gordon, what his price is. I think he was 7.5 million. Can't have them all, unfortunately. So, yeah, if I didn't have Mohamed Salah, I would have made it work with Anthony Gordon. But I've said that my first official FPL draft for the 24-25 season would be a draft that contains Mohamed Salah and Haaland. So, Havertz, let's just go to the forwards one more time. Is there a forward that I'm completely missing out on here? I mean, Solanke's 7.5. Mateta, again, Olympic football, can't really consider him right now. Wood, 6 million. Might be the player I'm after. Bit of a rotation risk, that's the only concern. Wissar, 6 million as well. If I knew that Wood wasn't a rotation risk, I could potentially get him. Let's just see what that does. So get Wood in, and then that leaves me with a £7 million midfielder. And at £7 million, got Trossard. Could get Eze as well. Mbuemo for goals scored. Let's sort this by just total FPL points. Declan Rice, Rodrigo. Again, nothing really appeals to me. Got Diaby there, but then Diaby is linked with a move away. Got Kudus. I think Eze with 11 goals, 5 assists could be what I'm after. Just Wood, purely with Chris Wood, provided that he does start. Those opening games do look appealing. Didn't even realise he'd scored 14 goals. But then I kind of feel that I'm missing an Arsenal player now. And are there any Arsenal midfielders other than Declan Rice who I could consider? Got Martinelli, 6 goals, 5 assists. Kind of felt that's a bit of a downside from what he did the previous season. His minutes were somewhat managed. Saka I can't afford, unfortunately. And then Trossard, who actually had a very good season with managed minutes, but it's a rotation risk, so I can't really consider him. So this is more balanced, having Eze and Wood, as opposed to McTominay and Havertz. But I kind of feel that if I'm not going to have Saka, then I kind of want Havertz as well. So yeah, I'm going to get Havertz in for this opening draft. Jesus starts. Of course, he would be the go-to pick here. 2 million to fill. Sorry, Eze, can't pick you for this draft. So coming back to the midfielders, £5 million. Can't believe it. I literally had all of my team almost picked except for this final piece of the jigsaw. Let's go back to goals scored again. Let's get Souček. then would I start him? That's the problem. Aston Villa, Palace, and then Harry Winks in game week 3. Who have we got? Who's he got in game week 3? Aston Villa. It's a bit of a tough ask. Yeah, Havertz and Odegaard I can't really change. Haaland, Isak I need. Let's just assume there is a 5.0 gem. May not be the one I'm going to pick right now. Just for minutes alone, I'm going to pick Thomas Souček. Let's pick him. He's got some attacking prowess history. Let's lock this in. Make transfers. So you can see my first draft, I've not made any changes apart from the auto pick. So confirm transfers. And let's just make sure I've got the right players in, and we'll do my famous super zoom in. So just swap him. Just put him on there. Harwood Bellis goes further down, and I'll promote Winks up the batting order, and David Raya is there. Just ignore the fact that I'm a Brentford fan. I'm not. I've purely done this just so that I could get a low ID, and thankfully I did at 1536. So just doing my super zoom in. Here is my first official FPL draft for the 24-25 season. But before I do that, I want to put the captaincy on Haaland. There we go. So let's zoom in more if I can. So in goal, David Raya, cheapest entry into Arsenal's defence for clean sheets. I think that's a no-nonsense there. Anderson, Burn, Martinez, 4.5 defenders. I think at least 2 of them have some sort of attacking threat, but let's be honest, it's just so that I've got some defenders with reasonable opening fixtures at a cheap price. Onto the midfield, Odegaard, Nkunku, Mohamed Salah, and Souček. And then strike force of Haaland, Havertz, and Isak. So that front 7, I'd say that's the most balance you can have if you can have Mohamed Salah and Haaland, unless I took out Havertz, put in Wood, and then onto the bench, Turner, Winks, Disasi, and Harwood Bellis. So there you have it. That is my official FPL draft, first one for the 24-25 season. Let me know in the comments below what you think. Have I got the balance right? Have I got the balance wrong? And what would you do different? As always, if you're able to like, share, and subscribe, that would be greatly appreciated. Take care and all the best.